Hi everyone, I'm Sean and welcome to the How to Hero YouTube channel. And today we're going to be doing a Ka channeling and today the topic is loneliness. And I think this is a topic that a lot of people deal with. I need to warn that this channeling may be a little bit uncomfortable for some people because loneliness is such a deep thing that everyone deals with. Ka sometimes with the language that comes out and the way that they describe things can kind of seem a little bit minimizing, but I wanted to share it anyways. I think it's interesting, and I'll just go from there. And I may have some commentary afterwards to, illustrate some of the insights that maybe I got from it. And I hope you guys find it helpful. And if you do, click the like button. Consider sharing this with people that might find it interesting, and help get some of the messaging out. So I'll start with the question. I said, I'm very grateful for this contact and transmission. Today, the topic is loneliness. Why does loneliness seem to be a state which permeates the human experience? First, it seems we feel lonely during our time of unconsciously repeating patterns. Then, as we awaken, we often feel lonely in this state as well, at least for a time, for various reasons. It seems we feel lonely when part of the mass, crowd, and unconscious, and this continues into our awakening as we balance, and we can often feel isolated and alienated. We are the principle of Ka, and we greet all who experience this catalyst we offer in the love and light of the one infinite creator. We will offer our philosophy upon the loneliness distortion that third density mind-body-spirit complexes often experience. As always, we ask of you a small favor in that you discern what resonates from our words and discard that which does not. In this way, we may speak freely of our general philosophy without infringing upon any being's free will. The query has several components, and we will attempt to answer. Be aware that due to the specificity of the question, we must speak in generalities. No entities are the same. The journey back to source is an infinitely complex array of choices best described as choices between love and fear in the third density experience. There is a core component of third density consciousness which is very typically present in the majority of entities. This is the focus and yearning to seek comfort through the adjustment of environment, relational connections, and the need to see, hear, and touch beautiful things. Third density is the first density of consciousness which begins to explore the manifesting of experience which is not directly tied to the survival of the entity. This is done in the form of creative expression, relationships, comfortable living, and a varying experience such as travel for travel's sake. The entity has forgotten themselves. When the mind-body-spirit complex does not know itself, it yearns to remember. This manifests to the confused human as a feeling of loneliness, which may more appropriately be expressed as a feeling of being less than whole. It is then the confused notion in separation that these holes or gaps in self must be filled through external reality. The mind-body-spirit complex will entertain itself with thoughts that indicate to it that it will feel whole when it has found a partner, its friend, or other circumstance. To summarize this, we shall say that each first seeks themselves, to know themselves, to accept themselves, to love all aspects of themselves. In the veiling which informs duality, this often results in confusion and seeking this in other selves. In truth, no other is sought. The other selves which will aid you in your journey and you in theirs will come and go, and in this realization that the seeking without will never quell the surge of yearning for wholeness within, the entity will turn inwards and gaze upon the self, balancing and learning to love themselves and recall their innate wholeness which has never truly left their beingness. Additionally, the mind-body-spirit complex will have programmed for itself and set forth tentative agreements with other selves to act as mirror. This is the typical pathway, though an ascetic and inner-seeking lifestyle lived primarily in solitude is the path for some. If one has no mirror, the entity may not discern itself through its reflections. It may only discern itself through meditative introspection. Therefore, if mirrors are upon the path, the entity will feel drawn to engage with other selves and form relationships that mirror precisely what is needed for their internal balancing and harmonizing of self. Finally, we wish to express that one can never be alone. We ask, O student, are you not eternal, everlasting, and unified with all that is? If this is deemed in the affirmative, one may see that the confusion of loneliness is born of separation and fear. The loneliness distortion is a core distortion of the third density, but may be transmuted, polarity reversed, and a purity of wholeness may be observed. It is the distortion of this wholeness, innate and inherent to the mind-body-spirit complex and its totality of beingness, which is felt as separation or loneliness. This catalyst is appropriate, for it is the impetus of all seeking of truth, which is more efficaciously sought via the alleviation of discomfort or disappointment. Without this discomfort, curiosity would not form, as the being would be content as it is and find no refuge in its seeking. It would play, and it would avoid the lessons ahead of itself. In this way, all challenge and seeming obstacle to wholeness and unity informs the path of seeking, is perfect and divinely guided, and is the primary method of all self-realization. This realization of self is that for the entirety of this experience, loneliness was unreal. The wholeness of the infinite creator and the love expressed to each entity by the creator has been distorted and polarized negatively. The entity seeks only themselves. In this dance of illusion where confusion invades the experience, this is not readily evident. We offer the following advice. Gaze into a mirror, see the creator. Know that in truth, all you perceive is but a mirror to observe the creator's dance of polarity. There is but one overarching and never-ceasing goal of life. The creator will know itself. Know yourself, dear one, and be at peace. Be merry, joyful, and walk in eternal bliss. Merge your heart with the divine heart which beats all into beingness and equanimity and love. Remember yourself. And so it is. So I think when I first shared this with Tassel, both of us were kind of like, this is kind of a frustrating message to hear, I think. It's kind of like, it can feel like the feelings of loneliness are kind of being minimized or dismissed. And I think that it's important to realize that the feelings themselves are real, that the experience of the loneliness or the separation or the feeling of not being whole, which I really like that they described it that way, because that's really what my experience of loneliness has been, is like, I don't feel whole. Like if I'm by myself and, I need something to make me feel whole. And if I don't have that, then, I don't feel whole. But what Ka's sort of saying is that these feelings are not, they're formed from the confusion of separation. So the feelings are totally real. We feel the way we feel, but we are feeling this way because we're viewing reality through a lens of separation. And this is what they go on to describe as basically perfect, because it allows us to sort of seek down these avenues and then realize, oh, these people don't really bring me happiness. The situations don't really bring me happiness. What really brings me happiness is my orientation to life and my orientation to myself, which, I am life. And so they're offering us, I think, an opportunity to realize that, we can't be alone. That there is no real such thing as being alone. As real as the emotion is that we feel, this is sort of they said the impetus for what causes us to seek is this disappointment or, lack of contentment with what currently is. This is sort of what drives us to try and improve things or try to change things, try to do whatever we have to do. And I think really what they're saying is that we have to try and let go of this idea that we can fix our hole within by like bringing in other people or experiences or whatever it is. It doesn't mean that these experiences are not enjoyable, and it doesn't mean that we shouldn't pursue experience with other people or anything like that. It's sort of detaching the concept that the person will make me feel whole from that whole equation. So regardless of if the person comes in to experience things with you or not, you still feel whole because your wholeness is not reliant upon the external circumstance, which is, that seems like a much more peaceful way to approach the world. And so you can pursue experience. The way that I like to frame it is pursue experience with other people in so much as you want to, right? Like pursue experience with reality, however feels good to you, however you want. But pull the concept out that, I'll be good when this happens, or I'll feel good when this happens. Because it's not true. Like, you may feel good, as in like you have a good experience and that is enjoyable, of course. But each moment is a transient, temporary moment of experience. And, you're not gonna, like, I don't know, get a girlfriend and then suddenly everything in your life is fixed. That's not, it doesn't work like that. And you can just review any other situation that you've ever been in, such as, like, I don't know, maybe you needed a job and got a job and thought that when you got the job, everything would be better. And, things do improve, things get better, but very quickly we become disappointed again. That feeling of wholeness doesn't last, because it's not a real, these things don't contribute to it. And the entire concept of us not being whole is an illusion that we've created. And so it never gets filled, because we're actually informing its beingness. Like, the concept of being lonely is being formed by our confusion, and it can never be satiated, because we're already whole. So the loneliness inherently doesn't exist. The feelings about it are very real, very uncomfortable, and should totally be acknowledged. But the root of what causes those feelings to arise is distinctly unreal. It's based in separation. So I found this to be very helpful, but also a little annoying to read. And I think Tassel also found it a little bit like, yeah, okay, accept myself, love myself, yeah. Often with these channels with Ka, it can sort of feel like they're repeating themselves a lot. And the way that they've described this to me is that, a lot of times humans are looking for, practices or shortcuts to acceptance of themselves, and they're not necessarily aware that that's what they're doing. And so Ka essentially is repeating, accept yourself, love yourself, realize everything's perfect, almost ad infinitum, right? Just constantly repeating that, and then giving various details that are interesting and stuff like that. But, the message is almost always the same. It's almost always to accept yourself and to love yourself as you are, and to realize that there is no problem, that even in your discomfort, that is also okay and is appropriate, which because it's the discomfort that gives us rise to motivation to do stuff about it, right? And so I think it's just really important that we separate the concepts of I'm basically, I'm pursuing a relationship with this other person because I want to, right? That's it. Not because I'll feel better, or because I'll feel more whole or less lonely. These because reasons are just sort of the rational mind creating a story around what's going to occur. So if we can realize that, step away from the story and just say, no, I'm just doing it because I want to, you start to live a much more peaceful experience. You're doing things just because it feels like the right thing to do. You're not doing things for these various reasons. We've sort of come up in the world working through life with lots of rational reasons for it. Lots of like, oh, I'm doing this because XYZ. And so it kind of goes totally against the grain of our nature, or not our nature. Our nature, I think, is to act more like the way I'm describing. But we've built our nature into this more programmed type of nature, where we place these sort of paths and boxes ahead of us and say, we're going to go this way because that way we'll experience these other things and that will be great. But when we do that, we form narratives that we can't maintain, because the narratives they're distinctly not real. They're not accurate representations of what's occurring. They're not, they're more like I said, stories or narratives. when we start to approach experience for, we seek an experience because we enjoy that experience instead of seeking it to make us feel better, then we are separating that whole concept, and we can move forward, I think, in a lot more peace, a lot more tranquility, just knowing that we are already whole, despite our feelings of a lack of wholeness. But I think we have to experience a bunch of that feeling. So I think it's really important to sit in that feeling, to experience that feeling, and to honor it, right? Honor that is how I feel as deeply as possible, because what you want to do is release that energy of loneliness. You want to let it go, like accept that you feel lonely, accept it, forgive yourself for feeling so lonely, forgive yourself for being confused, and for thinking in terms of separation and in terms of, like outside of unity. Forgive yourself for all of that, and then just seek to do and to experience things that feel good to experience without all of the because and the conditions around it. And if you do that, and you do that enough, you'll start to gain a practice of everything is okay because I don't have these conditions and stories on the world. And as I experience reality, I'm not projecting this good or bad story onto it. And then everything becomes a very baseline of perfect. And so in that state, you're not, you do have desires, and you may follow through with those desires, but they're done from a place of purity, of just following your heart. And it's just a very different state to be in. So that's the state that I try to advocate people move towards, because it's a lot more comfortable. It's a lot more, I would say, a lot more clearly desirable. It becomes kind of self-evident as we move towards this, that we're fine as we are. And really what we're seeking is experience that helps us evolve. And if we just keep pursuing that and just going where we feel led, where we feel called, everything will unfold perfectly. And then even our resistance to that, to these truths of unity, also inform our seeking. It informs our discomfort, which is also perfect, because that's what makes us realize I don't like being like this. I don't like this feeling. It's not, it doesn't feel like I'm accurately, something must be wrong here. And that's sort of our intuitive sense that we're not seeing the truth. If we don't see the truth, it feels bad. So our emotional guidance system is sort of saying, you feel lonely because you're lying to yourself. That's sort of, how the emotional guidance system works. When it's a negative feeling, there's a story that's being believed that is distinctly not true. And then it's sort of up to us to figure out where that story is and realize it and go, oh, okay, I see, I made up this story, or I had these experiences that formed this story. It's not like I just made it up out of nowhere. We have all these experiences, and yes, they objectively occurred the way that they occurred, and we experienced what we experienced, and then we made a story out of it. And then, from there, we start to manifest experiences that are similar and things like that, because we hold these stories. So yeah, I hope that was interesting. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions on it, or if you have any topics, if you're in our Patreon community, you can suggest topics on the Discord, and there'll be a link to Patreon below. This video is going to go live for Patreons a week early, and then it'll be released to the public next week, probably, I guess, January, next year. Wow. So thank you guys. I really appreciate your faces. Sending you all the love, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Take care.